Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models. It is time for another inbox review, and today we are doing the Trumpeter 132nd F-8E Crusader. This kit, we did the F-8J a few weeks ago and we know it is going to be a nice kit. Typical of Trumpeter, they all turn out to be good kits straight out of the box. They are great starting points if you want to add aftermarket in. Like I said, they start off as good kits. Straight out of the box, it's going to end up as a good kit. And with a little bit of addition of some aftermarket and some areas, they turn out to be exceptional kits with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the box. We're going to look around everything and see how all the plastic looks. But starting off, we have the top box art right here with the sling method that they used to catapult these off the flight deck right here, and then your shooter touching the deck. We also have the length of 524.6 millimeters, a wingspan of 344.6 millimeters, and a total parts count of more than 350 pieces. Now for length and wingspan in US units, give me 1 second to look that up. Okay, so total length in US units is 20.6 inches in length, and then 13.5 inches in wingspan. And I'm not sure if that is with the wings totally extended or with the wings folded. So I'm thinking it is with the wings totally extended right there. So you're going to be able to save some space with the wings folded. So we get off to the sides of the box and we have our two color schemes right here. First off, VF-162, the USS Oriskany of July of 1968, and then we have VF-194, USS Ticonderoga, 1968, right here. Nice colorful tail scheme right there. So we open up the box, and it is nicely packed with plastic. Seems like everything is pretty much individually bagged. Except for like our weapon sprues and our engine sprues. A couple of them are double bagged. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything set off to the side and we can start going through the instructions, decals, and all the plastic. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Alright, so starting off with the instructions, we have the typical Trumpeter layout in the landscape booklet format right here with the legend of symbols that we're going to be using throughout the instructions on the bottom right hand corner. Then we open it up and then we have our typical sprue callouts right here. All the numbers are legible, kind of. You might need to get your readers or magnifier out to see the numbers because they are a little bit small for print. So we have all 2 pages of sprue callouts right here. Alright, so starting off with the kit, we're getting our ejection seat done, and then we're working on our cockpit tub. We have a couple panels to go in there as well, along with our control stick and the center panel right here, and then we're just adding in our sidewalls right there. Then the next step, we're working on our gun base. This is the last gunfighter, so we are going to have some nice gun bays, and we do have some photo etch for our ammo feed chutes right here. So we're doing both sides of the guns right there. After that is done, we're working on our main landing gear wells, getting those all attached. It looks like there's going to be a decent amount of detail in those. And then we're getting everything attached into the side of the fuselage right here, along with our tail hook and everything. Also a little avionics bay right in here as well. And then we're going to repeat for the other side, adding in our landing gear wells, our gun well, and then another piece right here, which I'm not sure what that is, but we'll have to see. Maybe it's a refueling probe. Then we also have the bottom area for the wing well as well. Okay, after that we are working on our engines. Looks like we do have a full length, full detail engine, and it also has all the compressor blades right here going into our engine. So we'll have to see how the detail inside and outside looks here in 1 second. But so far it looks like it's going to be a pretty nicely detailed engine. Alright, then moving right along, we're working on our intake with our nose landing gear well that is attached. So we're going to be adding our sidewalls to our nose landing gear well, and we'll have to see how the intakes look with ejector pin marks and seam lines and all that here in a second. Then after that, we have our main landing gear struts and wheels right there. Does look like we have plastic wheels for this one. So we'll have to work on the seam line going down the middle. And then we have our speed brake cabin going on to the bottom side right here. After that's all done, we are getting everything, the engine, the speed brake well, and our cockpit / intake all put in and then sandwiched in together with the fuselage. Okay, then moving right along, we have our missiles going and rails going on right here. We also have our refueling probe and we also have the option of having rockets here as well. Alright, and then moving on, we have our doors for our gun bays, and then we have our instrument combing and instrument panel going in, as well as a ram air turbine with the option of having that in the open or closed position as well. After that, we're getting all of our landing gear put onto the fuselage, and then also a couple panels for our air brake area as well. And then we're also adding in some body work in between of the landing gear wells right here, and our landing gear doors also. Then the next step, we're adding in our speed brake and also our nose landing gear doors. And then we're adding in our canopy, front and rear canopy right there. Looks like there's going to be a little bit of canopy detail with the canopy rails, a back bulkhead, and also some rear view mirrors to add into that as well. Alright, and then after that, we are starting off with our wings. Looks like the wings are already cut for the folded position if you want to have the wings folded. And then we have our inner and outer wings right here. Then we're getting all that together. We do have the option of having them in the extended or folded position right here, and we have a bunch of detail parts to add into that. That's going to really give that wing fold some strength. Alright, then after that, we are getting our wing assembly on. We do have a couple pieces to put in here. We do have the option of having it in the raised or lowered position. And then we also have a couple of lumps and bumps to add on to the back end of the fuselage. Alright, and then the last couple steps are just working on our weapons, getting our pylons together, and then we have a few weapons to go in here, like AGM 62, AGM 12 going on, and then again more work with our 62 or 12. And then lastly, we're getting those all added to our fuselage. Alright, up next we have our color callouts and decal placement, and they are again on very large sheets, color, detail, all that, so very nicely put out so you can easily find where all the decals are going to go. And we have Mr. Hobby colors used for this right here. So again, very nice with the VF 162 USS Oriskany, July of 1968 right here. And then on the back side we have the other one with VF 194 Ticonderoga 1968 right here. This one is a very colorful one. So yeah, as you can see, all the profile pics of that as well. Alright, so up next we have a large decal sheet right here that's covering all of our decals. All the insignia, the national insignia, is broken up for the extra panels that are going to be going on there. They do look a little bit out of color, to me at least, so we'll have to see and do some reference photos to see how close those are, or we might have to get some masks and paint those up. But everything else we do have for this decal is all one decal, so we have a lot of carrier film to deal with on that. And then everything else on here does look fairly nice. This is the one I am planning on doing for this one anyways. And there's minimum carrier film with the exception of the Buno numbers and stuff. Not too much on the carrier film for those. Then we also have decals for our landing gear right here, and then these are all the stencil decals and armament decals as well. So again, pretty nice. I'm not seeing any misprints or misspellings on the stencils from what I can see. So pretty nice, and they are all legible and actual words, not just lines right through here. Alright, up next we have our photo etch fret. Has our seat belts, our compressor blades right here that you're not going to be able to see any of those. And then we have our intake fans. Yeah, those look, I would honestly think I would rather have plastic one. But we'll have to see about that. Then our seat belts, again, I'm not a fan of photo etch seat belts, so definitely won't be using those. I'll be getting some Quinta Studios seat belts for this set. But then we have our ammo feed sheets right here as well. Alright, and then we have our canopy, which is nicely packed in a separate box right here, so it's not going to be getting hit or smashed or anything by any of the other plastic. Problem is that they are bagged together, so they are rubbing up against each other, so there might be some scuffs on this. We'll have to see. But looking at these, so this front one right here is nice and crystal clear. I'm not seeing any issues or any scuffs or anything like that on this one. Might be a little bit of a scuff right here, but that's not bad. And then on the other canopy, again, pretty good. If there is a scuff, it's only like a very minor scuff, and there is also no seam line going down the middle of this. So this is basically just a drop and play once you get in the framing and all that stuff on there. Okay, up next we have our first double sprue of ordnance right here, and this is the typical Trumpeter out of the box ordnance. It's okay. The actual fins though on these are pretty knife edge, so that's nice on that point right here. I'm not seeing any, there's not a lot of detail to these, but other than that, I mean, they do look pretty nice out of the box, except for the GBU 12s right here. The fins are pretty thick and pretty squared off right here, so definitely going to want to sand those down to get your knife edge on those fins. But other than that, they do look okay for the AGM 12s and the 162s. Those look okay, really good for the fins. All right, so the next sprue is some more panel parts. Our speed brake right here, and our landing gear doors. Looks like we flip it over to the other side. The front landing gear doors, they do have an ejector pin mark on there. I'll get you zoomed in some more so you can see. But yeah, you can see the ejector pin mark on that right there, which is fairly shallow and should be fairly easy to take care of. And then on the back one, the aft landing gear doors, we do have 3 ejector pin marks, and some of those might be a little bit difficult, like this one. That one might be a little bit difficult for cleanup because it is surrounded by some other detail. And then everything else on here looks okay. For our speed brake, again, we have some ejector pin marks on that. That's going to need to get cleaned up on that part, but there is some decent detail going around here as well. Alright, then moving on to our next one, we have our exhaust cone. Again, I'm not a fan of out-of-the-box exhaust cones because they just look generic. That doesn't, to me, that doesn't look good. Out of the box, yeah, if you're going to build it out of the box, it'll do the job, but for me, for highly detailed stuff, it just doesn't do the job. And then everything else on here, like the fully detailed engine, you're not going to be able to see any of this. So, and then on the reverse side, our fan right here, now that does look nice. The fan blades are a little bit narrow, so getting a wash and getting that all weathered might be a little bit difficult, but it shouldn't be too bad. And then for the exhaust area, I'm hoping that these ejector pin marks are kind of covered up by other detail or far enough back that you can't really see them. Okay, up next we have another clear sprue. This is our navigation lights and a couple of the sensor faces for some of the GPUs right here. Those all look pretty nice as well. Alright, now moving right along, we have our outer wings right here. Again, we have some nice rivet detail and panel line detail on here. If you can see it in the light. And then on the underside again, nice panel line and rivet detail, and some other detail for our landing gear bays right in here that I don't see any issues. It's fairly decent detail. It'll be good for out of the box right there. And then our flaps and some of our pylons right here, some rivet detail on those, and just the panel line detail on that. Now you see the spider webbing right here. That's just from the plastic coming in at different temperatures and cooling off at different rates. Once you get it all painted up, you're not going to be able to see that anyway, so don't worry about that. Alright, now we have our wings. We have our upper and lower wings. Again, nice detail, rivet detail and everything on here, as you can see, all the way through. And then on the underside, again, nice panel line and rivet detail, and we even have some detail right on the underside right here, as you can see. Not sure if this is supposed to be like where wiring would be going or something like that. If I remember correctly, there is an aftermarket set for this area of the kit. But for everything else on this side looks okay. We do have a couple of landing gear doors that we're going to flip over and see. And for these, we do have a little bit of flash on the sides right here, but for ejector pin marks, we don't have any of that to go on to those. And then for our gun bay doors, again, no ejector pin marks, and also some nice framing detail on there as well. Okay, up next we have some more of our control surfaces, our flaps and slats going through here. Not much detail to all of these. On our elevators or horizontal stabilizers, they are in one piece, so that's nice. We don't have halves to glue together, and we do have some nice rivet and panel line detail on those as well. When we flip it over to the other side, these are all going to be halves, so you don't have to worry about seeing any of these ejector pin marks. Then on the underside of the horizontal stabilizers, again, some nice panel line and rivet detail on both of those. And then we have some of the lumps and bumps that are going to go onto the fuselage right here on these two pieces. Alright, up next, our next screw is just a bunch of tiny detail parts like our wheels. The wheels look okay. There is no sidewall detail or tread detail on there, so definitely going to look into getting some aftermarket wheels for this. And then we have all the other parts going on, all the hosing and just tiny detail parts. We have a ram air turbine right here, or ram air fan right here. Again, all the tiny carpet monster food is right in here. Very nice. Our guns, again, the guns look nice, but the barrels are not drilled out on the tips. I'm not sure on how much of that you're going to be able to see anyways, but they do look pretty nice for detail wise on the guns. And then we have all these other pieces for our ejection seat right in here, and part of our landing gear stuff as well. Alright, up next we have some more like our sidewinders right here, and then our rocket pods right here, and then ejection seat. Again, detail on that looks pretty generic on that. And then for our landing gear on this side, there's no ejector pin marks. And our little intake scoops right here are nice and drilled out a decent distance back for that. And then we have our launch rails and all the other parts on this side. This side looks pretty good. Now we flip it over to the other side. This is where we're going to start running into issues. Like on this gun bay right here, it is littered with ejector pin marks on both of them. And on these doors, again, littered by ejector pin marks all around. So it's going to take a lot of cleanup to get these done. And like some of these might be in some pretty difficult areas to not sand out all of the detail. And like on your refueling probe bay right here, see all those ejector pin marks in there. Those are going to be an absolute nightmare to take care of on that. And for our landing gear struts, do have a couple small ejector pin marks right there, but those shouldn't be too difficult to take care of. They are pretty small. And then on our sidearm or sidewinders, just littered on this side with ejector pin marks. 1, 2, 3, 4 per missile right here on the opposite side. So there's where all those issues. So this sprue on this side was looking really good, and then you flip it over and it turns into a disaster right here. Alright, coming up with sprue number G, or letter G, we have some more exhaust area, and again, this exhaust can just looks generic and not good in my opinion. So definitely going to get some aftermarket exhaust for this kit. Then everything else, just a little bit of detail, not much to it. I'm not seeing any flash or any issues with any of that. And then we flip it over to the other side. Not sure on how much of this you're going to be able to see. Like this, that goes onto the engine, so no issues with that. So yeah, this sprue, for the little detail that it has, is okay, except for this exhaust can or burner can right here. That just, it doesn't look good. So definitely going to get some aftermarket afterburner exhaust for this. Alright, so moving on to our last sprue, and this is a absolutely huge sprue right here. As you can see, this is the full length of the body minus the nose cone right here. So you can see it is a very large kit. Now zooming back in to it, we can see all the panel line and rivet detail on here is absolutely gorgeous for the most part. I mean, when you do this kit, the body of it is going to look absolutely amazing because of all the detail that's in here. On our landing gear wells, we do have some nice detail on that as well. Then our cockpit has some decent detail, but we also do have the side arms, which I don't see. They must have been on another sprue, but we do have some detail that's going to be going on to that as well. So the cockpit will look okay. We do have a little bit of flash on this intake piece right here. But that just knocks off real easy. Then we have the instrument panel. We have one, then we have a blank one right here, unless it's on the other side. But this instrument panel, it looks okay. I don't recall seeing a decal for it, but we'll have to see what is in it when we start building the kit. So again, and then just a repeat for this side of the fuselage with the panel line and rivet detail on there. All looks pretty nice. And when painted and gets a wash and everything, it's going to look really good. Now we flip it over to the other side. The only parts I'm really worried about for this side of the sprue are our intakes and also the speed brake well. So we'll start off with the intakes. And again, we have a lot of ejector pin marks on here that are going to need to be taken care of on that. And then on the other side of the intake, again, a lot of ejector pin marks on those. And then we have our speed brake well, which has some nice wiring detail on there, and no ejector pin marks on that piece whatsoever. So, and then we have the ram air turbine bay right here. Again, some nice detail on that as well. Alright, so that is everything for the Trumpeter 132nd F-8E Crusader. And this kit from the exterior side looks very nice, with the exception of the exhaust or the afterburner can. That looks like it needs some work, and also the wheels will definitely need some aftermarket stuff. And then the major issue about this kit is all of the cleanup that's going to be required for all of the ejector pin marks. Some of the areas are absolutely littered with ejector pin marks. But with that being said, this kit will turn out to be an absolute beauty when it's all built straight out of the box. It will turn out to be a good kit straight out of the box. And if you want to go to the exceptional level and add in a little bit of aftermarket, spend a little bit of extra money on the kit, that will send it to the next level. But straight out of the box, this is going to be good. And even you can do some scratch building if you have the talent to do that, and that will also send it to the next level. I personally do not have the talent to do a lot of scratch building of high detail parts. I can do little bits in here and there, but some of the scratch building I've seen online is absolutely amazing. But other than that, that's all I got to say about this kit. Also, we do need to look at the register of the national insignia. They do look to be a little bit off color in the decals, so we'll do a little bit of research on that as well. But other than that, that's all I have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this inbox review, and I also hope that if you're on the fence about getting this kit, I hope this one helped you make your decision. Other than that, that's all I gotta say. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below, especially if you built this one before. Let us know if there's any snag or hiccup areas in the kit that you ran into. But until next time, have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.